Senator Lazarus.
Thank you, Mr President. My question is also to the Minister, assisting the Minister for Immigration, Minister Cash. As a senator, I regularly visit rural and regional Queensland and to meet and talk with people in local communities. Last week, I toured businesses and community groups in Cairns, Townsville and Mackay. The main issue affecting the region is, of course, lack of jobs. I spoke with abattoir workers from a rural town where many people are out of work and want jobs. The local abattoir, which should be a main employer for the town, is employing few locals. Instead, 75% of the workers are 457 visa holders who are brought in because they are cheaper to employ. What is the government doing to stop the rorting of the 457 visa system, to ensure Australians are given the first opportunity to secure jobs across our country?
The Minister for Employment, representing the Minister for Immigration and Border Protection, Senator Cash. Point of order, Senator Di Natale.
Look, I find it really hard, even though Senator Lazarus is just here. Right? The yapping from Senator Canavan over there makes it almost impossible to hear the question.
All right, thank you, Senator Di Natale. Again, I'll remind all senators, order. I'll remind all senators that interjections are disorderly. Senator Cameron, on the same point of order.
On this very issue, Senator Canavan accused Senator Lazarus of lying in that same outburst, and he should withdraw.
Thank you, Senator Cameron. Senator Canavan.
Thank you, Mr President. Just to clarify, I said that is a lie. I did not accuse Senator Lazarus himself of being a liar. I accused that what was said was untruthful.
Thank you, Senator Canavan. I had called the Minister to answer the question. Minister.
Thank you, Mr President, and I thank Senator Lazarus for his question. Senator Lazarus, in the first instance, in answering your question, the government always believes that where there is an Australian that is ready, willing and able to undertake a job, an employer should always look to that person first. That is the basic principle under which this government works. In relation to employment growth under this government, since the government came to office in September 2013, the level of employment has risen by 3.2%. That translates into approximately 366,400 jobs. So there has been a rise in employment growth under this government. In relation to the 457 program, you'll also be pleased to know that under this government, compared to the former government, there has been a decrease in the number of 457 visa holders in Australia. Under the former government, and in fact Minister O'Connor in particular, there was a rapid escalation in the number of 457 visa holders coming to Australia, and it peaked at approximately 110,000. Under this government, you have seen a decrease in the number of those people. Can I say, though, that in relation to the exploitation of any worker, but your question is also about foreign workers, we do not tolerate the exploitation of workers. And I know that you have previously asked questions about a job in line, and certainly the government does have a particular line that people are able to call if they believe that exploitation of workers is occurring. So, in answer to your question, Senator Lazarus, where there is an Australian that is ready, willing and able to perform a job, we absolutely stand by the principle that an employer should look to them first. Where there is no one, we do believe that there does need to be a program.
Thank you, Minister. The time for answering the question has expired. Order, Minister. Senator Lazarus, supplementary question.
Thank you, Mr President. I understand the government has lists which are used for the issuing of 457 visas and special purpose visas. How often are these lists reviewed against Australia's national interests, jobs, information and the employment needs of rural and regional communities across Australia?
Minister.
Thank you, Senator Lazarus. I believe you may be referring to the skills lists. You will be interested to know that when I was the Assistant Minister for Immigration and Border Protection, there is a body referred to as Maxim, the Migration Advisory Council on Skilled Migration. We had actually given over to Maxim, which is a body which is represented not just by employers but by unions as well. In fact, Jed Kearney, the head of the ACTU, is on this body. They are actually looking at the varying skills lists that are chosen to look for 457 visa holders. The 457 visa program is very much a demand-driven program. So if there is a shortage somewhere and the skill is on the relevant skills list, the employer is able to, subject to obviously fitting in with all the criteria, able to bring someone in. But going back to the general premise—
Thank you, Minister. The time for answering the question has expired. Senator Lazarus, final supplementary question.
Thank you, Mr President. Given there appears to be clear evidence of rorting and employers doing the wrong thing in rural and regional Queensland, will the government introduce a 457 visa dobbing line and increase resources to deal with complaints and compliance issues?
Minister.
Thank you. And again, Senator Lazarus, I confirm the government condemns any form of exploitation. We already have a dobbing line that people are able to access. Do they believe that there is exploitation? You will also be aware, though, that recently this place, and I understand it was last week, passed a piece of legislation that is, you are now unable to charge for a migration outcome, and we have introduced exceptionally hefty penalties for those who are doing this. You may also be aware that it is this government that stood up Task Force Kadena. That is a very specific task force that is looking at addressing worker exploitation. I have also stood up a ministerial working group on worker exploitation. We see this as a whole-of-government issue. It is not necessarily limited to one portfolio, and that is why we have the ministerial working group, so a number of us can come together and look at ways we can work across government to ensure that workers are not being exploited.
Thank you, Minister. The time for answering the question